What's up guys, my name is PJ and today we're going to talk about the Heart Triad of the Enneagram. What does it mean to belong to the Heart Triad in the Enneagram symbol? Well, today we're going to look at that, and today we're going to look at more in depth what the types that belong in the Heart Triad say to us, or what is the main struggle that they face as they go through their life. So when we talk about the idea of these triads, we're really talking about the fact that the human psyche is built up of three components. One is the gut, and this is according to the Enneagram. One is the gut. These are types 8, 9, and 1. The other section is the head. These are types 5, 6, and 7. And the last section is the heart section. The heart section is comprising of type 2s, 3s, and 4s. Each of these triads face a different struggle that a human being might have faced in their early childhood development years. And these issues or these struggles, these conflicts that they had or faced, they might have translated and moved with them into adulthood. And so an individual is still facing issues that they didn't resolve from childhood up until into their adulthood. So in particular, in the heart section of the Enneagram, we're looking at the issue of shame. What does that mean, and what are we talking about when we talk about shame in Enneagram terms? So Enneagram is saying each of these types, 2, 3, and 4, in childhood, they may have subconsciously or overtly heard the message, you are not good as you are. Who you are as you are is not good enough. So be who we want you to be. Say what we want you to say. Think what we want you to think. Basically, this is a family structure, a family unit, or a society where a kid heard this message, you are not good enough as you are, so be something else. Each of these types, these three types, 2, 3, and 4, this message, hearing this message, as it would do so for all of us if we were to hear that message, it caused shame in them, this feeling of shame. I'm not good enough. Shameful feelings started to arise in them. And each of these types came up with 3 different strategies to overcome these feelings of shame. What did type 2 decide to do? Type 2 decided that they're going to be the helpful good boy or good girl and help mommy and daddy, always be at their service, always meet every need that other people around them might have. So they became identified with the helper. So in consequence, their true identity, their true spirit got hidden under the guise of this personality of being a helpful individual. So as they go to adulthood, as they carry the unresolved issues, the unresolved shame of childhood into adulthood, they still start becoming and being the person that is always seeking to meet the needs of the other people around them, but never ask themselves, what do I need in this moment? What are my true needs and wants in this moment? Am I acting like I have no needs? Because there's this underlying feeling of pride that is trying to overcome that feeling of shame, because pride feels a little bit better than shame. So if I have this pride in the sense that I have no needs, other people have needs, and I meet their needs, but I have no needs, it gives a feeling of pride to the type 2 that might be so hidden, and it might be so underlying everything that this feeling of pride most definitely in most cases is not in their conscious awareness, but nonetheless it's there and it's running the show in many cases. In a lot of type 2s, this pride of, I have no needs, I am Superman, I am Superwoman, everybody else has needs, and I am the one that meets their needs. What this does over time, it makes them get stuck more and more and more in this identity of, I am a helper. So the message that they heard in childhood, which was I'm not good enough, now is being covered up or painted over with this message of I am helpful, and consequently this can go on for years before they start and say, who am I underneath this guise of helpfulness? And as any of us can imagine, not meeting your own needs and always seeking to meet the needs of other people, that's going to make you really resentful over time when those needs are not meant or are not met magically, because other people are not psychic. They're not going to, in most cases, intuit your needs, especially if you have created this guise of superhero, Superman, Superwoman that has no needs. They're not going to be able to intuit and consequently meet the needs that you might have. So over time, all these unmet needs lead to a lot of resentment, a lot of anger feelings. And type 2 actually, it starts looking like in type 8, which is the challenger, when it's stressed out, when it's built up, when all these feelings have been repressed for so long. So the true identity of good enoughness, I am good enough as I am, that identity in type 2s has been covered up by a guise of helpfulness. Now, what has that been covered up with in type 3s? In type 3s, these children, the type 3 children in childhood, when they heard the message of you're not good enough, and let me go ahead and say here before I go on any deeper into this video, our sense of good enoughness, being good inherently as we are, that sense can only be met and truly fulfilled when we go deeper than our personality identity, when we go deeper into our spirit. Because until we go beyond personality and then we touch a deeper layer of who we inherently are, until we do that, we're not gonna ever feel truly good enough. And good enough doesn't mean you're better than others or worse than others. It just means you are good as you are. You are inherently good. You're inherently deserving of love and belonging, as Brene Brown would probably say. And so type 2s became the helpful individuals. The type 3s decided to become the achievers. So the personality saw this need that is being unmet, which is this inherent need that we all have to be good enough, to be good as we are. The type 3s saw that need is not met, so the personality hijacked that wound and said, I'm gonna cover this wound. In type 3s, I'm gonna become the achiever. I'm gonna aim to achieve a lot of goals and a lot of success and a lot of objectives and so on and so forth. And by doing so, I'm gonna cover up this inherent sense of not being good enough. This message that I heard in childhood that I'm not good enough. Well, guess what? I'm gonna achieve so much that I'm gonna try to fill that void with success. And as many of us have seen in pop culture and society, so many of us, of our most successful individuals, especially in the West, have unfortunately committed suicide, have taken their own life. Why? Because what said, especially in the Western society, so let me preface this by saying type 3s, they want to achieve what success is defined in any particular society. So in the West, success is defined as money, financially being successful, making a lot of money, being famous, being popular, being a social media influencer, or whatever it might be at a particular time. The type 3s said, I will become that which is defined as success in the environment in which I am in. So, as we have seen, a lot of people do reach that pinnacle of success, but it doesn't lead them to be fulfilled or feel that void that they felt within them, that wounding that they received in childhood, which was, I am not good enough as I am. They decided to fill that void with success to no avail in most cases. So what are type 3s to do when they're faced with this predicament of, if you achieve X, Y, and Z, then you will be worthy. And they achieve X, Y, and Z, and they still don't feel the worthiness that it promised it will bring them. In this situation, that's when the work comes in. And by the work, I mean the work that the Enneagram suggests that we all do, which is let go of your personality structure and your personality's coping strategies and skills, and instead lean in to your essence, to your spirit, and allow that to fulfill your basic, your core desire, your core need that was unmet in childhood. So in this case, in type 3s, being good enough, being inherently good enough, that was the basic desire. That's a basic desire that we all have. And again, we all have these types within us. That's why we all have these basic desires to some degree. But a person of that type might have it more, might yearn for that desire to be good enough more than somebody who might be in the body section. So a type 8, for example, or type 6, for example, the type 6 might desire security, but the type 3 might just desire to be good enough for who they are without the success, right? Being inherently good, not you are good because of what you do, but you are good because of who you are. That message is so healing for type 3s to hear. So the work that I was saying in Enneagram is to let go of your personality strategies and tactics to get your needs met, and instead rely on your spirit, rely on your essence, rely on your inherent goodliness to come through and give you that which you most seek after. So what do I mean by that? That sounds so airy-fairy. But really what I mean is each of these 9 types, they have a basic desire. That basic desire will be met and was most likely unmet in childhood, but will be met not by the strategies and the tactics that the personality suggests, but by relaxing and letting go into the essence that we all are. So the idea here is that underneath our personality and underneath our personality's strategies and tactics to get us what we want and what we need, underneath that there's an essence, there's a spirit, there's a goodness that if we just learn to relax the tendencies of our personality, that goodliness would just come through and be who we are, because that is who we already are. So what does the Enneagram help us do? The Enneagram helps us see in what ways our personality tries to hijack our existence, and instead it lets our essence come through naturally by not acting out on the impulses of our personality's desires, really. And by relaxing into that essence more and more and more, our personality will still be there, but it won't be such a thick layer of being. We would have more choice, we would have more freedom, we would show up more fully as who we are, and we wear our personality like a clothing, but we wear it lightly. We know that we are not the clothing, but we are what's underneath that. And so hopefully that kind of paints a picture of the work that I'm saying here. When I say we do the work that the Enneagram suggests, I really mean we let go of our personality's strategies and tactics, which most often has caused us pain and not brought us the desired outcome that we seek, and instead we let go of that and we relax into the essence that which we are. So let's go to type 4. In response to this message of you are not good enough as you are, what did the type 4 decide to do? So if the type 2s decided to become helpful, the type 3s decided to become the achievers, the type 4s decided to become attached to certain emotional states, and identify too heavily with that emotional state and have that be who they are. So a lot of times type 4s hold a certain emotional state, most often melancholy, very dear, and this sense comes from, I am not good enough, nor do I belong with the rest of society. I am different than others. And while that might be true, and while we all have our inherent uniqueness, can't say my word. While we all have our inherent uniqueness, the type 4s become compulsive about wanting to be unique. So what are they doing there? They're saying, I am not good enough. Well, I am going to compensate by being so unique. So this sense of forced uniqueness gives them an illusion of goodness that's covering up or making up for that core wound of I am not good enough as I am. And a lot of times also the type 4s can become very preoccupied with a certain emotional state. Melancholy, as I earlier suggested, seems to be a theme. And this melancholy really comes from that uniqueness. This uniqueness and this melancholy go together. They're like brothers and sisters. The melancholy comes from the fact that the type 4s feel that they are so unique that there's a sadness that they don't feel like they belong anywhere. So this gives them a feeling of melancholy. And if you are familiar with the work of Eckhart Tolle, the author of The Power of Now, he says something in that book that I think is super profound for all of us to hear, but most importantly, type 4s to hear. He says, instead of identifying with the emotional state that you feel, so for example, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm lonely, I'm miserable. Instead of saying I am that emotional state, I am that fill in the blank, say I have sadness within me, but I am not that. So here, instead of identifying with the emotion, realize that you are separate from the emotion and you are like the container for the emotion. So yes, the emotion of sadness might in fact be there, but you are bigger than that. You are what holds that. And when you realize that, in the Bible, there's a line that says, before Abraham was, I am. That's how God identifies himself. That God essence, that I am presence, is also a state that's available to us because God created us in his image. So the more we can relax into that I am, and we realize that we are human being, we are being, not our emotion. Our emotions are always fluctuating. The ocean doesn't identify with the waves on the ocean, but it identifies with the water that it is and that it holds. If the ocean identifies with the winds that are on its surface, then the winds are sometimes there and sometimes not. So the ocean would constantly miss its identity, would constantly feel perplexed that it doesn't know who it is anymore if the waves are not there. And you can say that the waves are the sadness. The waves of sadness are these passing waves of this ocean of being. So the type 4s are the essence, they're the ocean of being. And the waves are just the emotions. So if they get preoccupied with the emotions and overly identify with the emotions, they miss the bigger reality of their essence and who they really are. And so the work here for type 4s is to recognize you are not your emotions. You are what holds the emotions. And just like the ocean doesn't change because of the waves on its surface, you don't change because of these passing emotions on your surface of consciousness. And when you can tap into that, and this takes work just like it takes work for every single Enneagram type to grow beyond the normal tendencies of their type. We wouldn't call it work if it wasn't involving some element of effort, some conscious decision making and work that we have to do on a day-to-day basis to catch ourselves in the act of our personalities, because our personalities have certain tendencies that we have been acting out most of our life. So now to try to reverse that, to try to push the brake on these automatic tendencies when for most of our life we just have gone along with them, that takes work. That's why we call it the work. So the work here for type 4s is to recognize the tendency of their personality to want to overly identify with a certain emotional state, and instead realize that they are the conscious awareness and the presence beyond this passing emotion. And when they can tap into that, when they can tap into the observer, not what is being observed, they are going to find the authenticity, the uniqueness, the joy, and the fulfillment that they are seeking after. Now, this is something that is suggested for all Enneagram types to do. An 8 can benefit from this, a 9 can benefit from this, a 1 can benefit from this. And by this, I mean stepping into the conscious awareness, the witness perspective of our lives. So we see what's happening, we see how our personality is about to come and hijack the situation, and we just observe it. We don't act on it. Doesn't mean we repress it. We absolutely feel what this personality is trying to do, but we just watch. And through the act of watching and not acting impulsively on those impulses, we tap into a deeper essence, a deeper sense of who we really are. And that is the work that the Enneagram can help us do so beautifully. So the Hard Triad, these 3 types, 2, 3, and 4, as I just mentioned, the message that they received in childhood was, you are not good enough as you are. Then shame set in as a result of hearing that message, as it would for any of us. This shame, in order to overcome this feeling of shame, they chose 3 different tactics. 2s decided to become helpful, 3s decided to become achievers and overachievers, and 4s decided to become individuals, become so unique, so different than anything else, than anyone else. And through these 3 different tactics, they decided to meet that basic desire, that desire to be inherently good for who they are. But these strategies don't produce the fruit that we are seeking and that we are after. And only doing the work of not overly identifying with our personality, but wearing our personality like a clothing that is not us. Our clothing is not us. We are more than the clothing that we wear when we go out into the world, but we are not that clothing. And on a deeper sense, we are not the temporal, but we are the eternal. And the more we can identify with that which we truly are, the more all these basic desires get met. This desire to be good enough, we have to relax into that which we are. So meditation is suggested for all Enneagram types, because through meditation, we learn to disconnect from the mental chatter that constantly tries to tell us, it's our personality's way of trying to tell us what to do to get a certain need met, but those strategies are obsolete. Those strategies are outdated. Our personality started suggesting those personalities when we were like 2 years old. And it's still trying to use the same strategies that we used when we were 2 years old. That's like saying, hey, we're going to send a letter, but we're going to send it with a pigeon. And that might have been a very good strategy to use in the 1500s, or maybe even earlier than that. But in this modern day and world, why would I just not send a text message or an email instead of all that? And that's what our personality tries to do. It tries to use a 1500th century or 15th century strategy in the 21st century world. It doesn't work. And ultimately, we can either realize that the strategies of our personality don't work through a lot of pain, through a lot of hitting our head against the wall and these strategies not working and not producing the fruit that we're after, or we can study the Enneagram, become conscious of our own tendencies and our own attempts to get these needs met, and realize that they're not going to lead to the fruit that we are after, and instead choose a better way, choose a different way to go about getting these needs met. A way that is certain to yield the fruits that we are after. And that way is a way of catching yourself, observing yourself, not letting your personality hijack every situation, every moment. Tap into the I am awareness, I am presence beyond the personality's tendencies to hijack the moment. So you can sit back and observe your personality is trying to act out in an impulsive way, in a way that it always has, but don't act on it. See it. See that it's trying to happen, but don't act on it. And through using that conscious choice, using that conscious awareness, that's a skill that you cultivate, and over time, that skill of being the observer, that saves you and gives you the freedom and the inherent goodness that you have been seeking in all the different ways that you have been going after. So I hope this helps, and my message to all my type 2, my type 3, and my type 4 listeners is that you are good as you are. You are created by a loving creator, and you need to know that your essence has not changed despite what you might have been told. You are good, you are inherently good, and you are good just as you are. Believe that, and you will see that, and you will receive that. I love you, and my hope for you is that you come to that realization sooner than later, because ultimately, we all will. I love you, and thank you guys for checking out my channel. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, please like this video, and just know that more videos like this are coming out on this channel. So, love you, thank you guys for following my work. Again, I'm PJ, and I will be back with more videos coming soon. Take care.